What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck that I'm pretty sure I stole from Orobomb, or at least the idea I stole from Orobomb, although I'm not fully sure because it was so long ago. But I mean, let's be real, 99% of my decks are stolen from Orobomb anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of go with benefit of the doubt right here and say this is a list that was stolen from Orobomb, and that is a deck centered around Mega Scizor-EX and Dhelmise, an older idea that isn't as relevant. Actually, you know what? It's not even relevant at all in the current metagame. But I mean, it's still a cool deck idea that I wanted to go ahead and try out and see how it goes. But before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, helps us out a ton. And let's just do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, what are your guys' thoughts on Dhelmise in competitive metal decks? Now, I heard from one of the subscribers I've been getting back into actual competitive Pokemon. Well, I don't mean to say that in like a bad way. Actually competitive Pokemon. No, TCG is perfectly competitive. What I mean is I'm getting more back into the video game style with Showdown and 6v6, that type of stuff. So I've been paying a little bit less attention to what's going on in the TCG. Still enough to remain relevant, hopefully, but not as much as I used to. And so I was informed by one of the people that commented on the Metagross video that the guy that ran the Metagross deck that my list was based off of, that got second at Wisconsin Regionals, said that he actually regrets bringing Dhelmise in the deck. And I mean, if you look at Dhelmise, it looks like a solid card overall. I mean, Steelworker, your metal Pokemon's attacks do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. It's reminiscent of Regirock, of Deoxys, and others that I'm definitely forgetting. But in general, this type of ability has had success has seen success when it's been printed on a card, and with Metagross having some success at this current in this current meta, you would think that Dhelmise would inherently have some success as well. Well, the more I look at it, the more I realize that Steel decks really don't necessarily need just 10 damage. In order to get Dhelmise to work most effectively and to provide the extra damage that you really need, to where using Dhelmise would actually be useful in certain situations, then having one just really isn't enough, in my opinion. Like, you have to run more of them, like 2 or 3, and then at that point you're more susceptible to starting with them, and Dhelmise have a nasty 2 retreat cost, which, I mean, metal decks don't generally run DCEs or anything like that. So you're just kind of stuck with Dhelmise in the active spot, and then that just 10 damage from running one tech Dhelmise really doesn't help in a lot of situations. So the more I play metal decks, the more I realize that Dhelmise isn't as great in a metal deck as that type of ability would be in other types of decks. Now, that being said, if I ever run kind of a gimmicky metal deck, of course I'm going to use Dhelmise. I'm using gimmicks anyway, I might as well use full gimmick, and so I'm running Dhelmise in this deck because, again, this deck is gimmicky as heck. So, yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, what are your guys' thoughts on Dhelmise in current meta competitive metal decks? So, yeah, leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, this is centered around Mega Scizor-EX, and back when the rotation first happened and we had all of like 5 sets to work with, Mega Scizor was part of the rock, paper, scissors that was the early stages of the meta. The 3 big meta decks were Volcanion, Mega Scizor, and Mega Mewtwo, and it was really just kind of okay, which one is my opponent going to bring? I need to bring the one that beats it. It was very rock, paper, scissors. Scizor lost to Volcanion but beat Mewtwo. Volcanion lost to Mewtwo but beat Scizor. And, what was that? And Volcanion beat Scizor but lost to Mewtwo. So, I mean, yeah, very rock, paper, scissors. And then Yveltal Garbodor came in and just kind of ruined everything, but that's beside the point. Either way, Scizor has fallen out of favor immensely, as have the vast majority of Megas, just because they're a little bit, I don't know, they're not as powerful as the GXs because they take a little bit too many resources to use effectively, like with the Spirit Links in particular. So, I mean, this deck, not very competitive at all, but it's still kind of a cool deck to use if you have Scizors lying around that you're like, well, what am I going to do with these now? I mean, it's fairly straightforward. You just have Mega Scizor, 220 HP, so really not overall that incredibly bulky, especially by today's metagame standards. with Iron Crusher for 2 metal energy does 120 simply isn't enough in a lot of cases for a lot of 2-hit KO. So that's why we're running Dhelmise, to try to boost up Iron Crusher to where it can take 2-hit KOs, and in some cases OHKOs with Choice Band, as you will see in a little bit. But Iron Crusher, 120 damage for 2 energy, that's actually pretty solid, and you may discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, or a Stadium in play. So just very, very solid attack, and basically this whole deck is centered around trying to boost its power up enough to where it can take OHKOs, to where it can actually compete against some more of the meta-centric decks. As for the lines of Pokemon, this is a Mega Pokemon deck, so we're obviously going to be running Hoopa, and because we're running Hoopa, we are running more Shaymin, even though Shaymin has really fallen out of favor, just like the Megas, in favor of more Lele. But I mean, again, we're running Hoopa, so we might as well run more Shaymin because it's another way of searching Shaymin out without having to use an Ultra Ball or anything like that. And as of this point, there are no ways of searching out just a bunch of GXs. There's no Hoopa for GXs just yet. But yeah, so we're running 2-1 of Shaymin and Lele, more Shaymin than Lele, like I said, because of Hoopa. 4-3 of Scizor and Mega Scizor because main attacker. And Scizor actually isn't horrible in itself. Steel Wing, 1 for 20. During your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon is reduced by 20. So I mean, not bad. Lets you hit for a little bit of damage for 1 energy. And then Gale Thrust does 50 plus 60 if this Pokemon became your active Pokemon during your turn. I mean, it's decent. I mean, that's overall what this... I mean, that's really just kind of the theme of this deck. It's decent. I mean, it's not great, but it's not horrible. It's just decent. 4 Dhelmise, absolute max number, because we want to have as many of those with Steelworker as possible. 1 Hoopa to search out Scizors and Shaymins. Then, that's not a Lele. Then finally 1 Lele, just because Lele is so ridiculously powerful in this current game that you have to run it. You have to run 1 copy of it at the very least. And in a deck that even is so centered around EXs, I still had to have Lele because it's that powerful. As for the items, running 2 Field Blower just because Garbotoxin shuts off this deck's abilities to really increase damage with Dhelmise, shuts off Shaymin, Hoopa, and Lele, all of whom are very important for the strategy. So we want to have a couple of those, and also Choice Bands. We want to get rid of those that could be detrimental to Scizor and allow our opponents to hit us for a knockout before we're able to hit them. 4 Mega Turbo just to try to power up Mega Scizor as quickly and consistently as possible and just kind of stream them as we go throughout the match. 4 Ultra Ball to guaranteed get what we want when we want. 4 via Seeker, let us reuse all of our supporters. And then as for these supporters, you have my standard anyway 3-3-2 line of M Scizor and Lysandre. I know I've been saying I've been kind of trying the 4-4-2, but for the time being, I mean, this is just kind of a throwback gimmick deck anyway, so I might as well just go what I'm comfortable with 3-3-2, 1 Olympia, because, I mean, our Pokemon are pretty bulky with Mega Scizor having 2, Dhelmise having 2, Hoopa having 2, so we don't have enough Float Stones to go around for everybody, so having Olympia as a supporter way of switching means that we're not just left stranded in situations where our opponent Lysandre's out something that doesn't have a Float Stone. 1 Pokemon Center Lady, just try to increase the longevity of the Mega Scizor because we need that to stay out there for a little while, just so we're able to, you know, actually kill things and get things going. 1 Kukui for that damage increase, which we so desperately need in this deck. And oh, by the way, another reason that I'm running 2 Field Blower is because part of the strategy of this deck is to Field Blower away our own Spirit Links and then attach Choice Bands on there. So, I mean, that's another way of boosting the damage output of Scizor. Yes, I know, this deck is so gimmicky, and you're not able to do that the majority of the time, but I mean, it's still a cool deck when you're able to pull it off, and it just feels awesome when you're able to pull it off, if I'm being completely honest. Sky Field, because we have a ton of Pokemon that we want to play on the bench, so we want as many bench spaces as possible. I mean, could potentially run Reverse Valley in with it, but you just want Skyfield. Plain and simple, you really just want Skyfield out there the majority of the time anyway. And you also could run a Sudowoodo maybe in place of another Metal Energy, like run 1 less Metal Energy to run a Sudowoodo just so your opponent can't take advantage of Skyfield either. And then, I mean, if your opponent counters with Skyfield, well, you can just get rid of Sudowoodo. But there really wasn't a whole lot of room for techs in this deck, so I just kind of went with what I could. And I mean, if this deck was something that I would take to like a competition, then of course I'd try to tech it out for every possible matchup. But this is just a gimmick, let's have fun deck on TCGO, so I decided, we'll just go with this, and if we lose, well, it happens. 2 Choice Band, 3 Float Stone, and 3 Spirit Link. 3 Spirit Link because there are 3 Mega Scizors. 3 Float Stone because we want a little bit heavier of a number because of the amount of Pokemon we have that have pretty heavy retreat costs, and then 2 Choice Band. I did run a little bit higher numbers, but in my testing with this deck, I found that I really wasn't able to pull off the Field Blower away your own Spirit Link after you Mega Evolve as much as I wanted to. So I was like, you know what, I'll leave that option open, but I'm not going to put as many eggs in that basket as I generally would. And then 9 Metal Energy, just because, I mean, that's what the deck runs on. You could potentially run a Psychic Energy too, that way you can use Tapu Cure to heal up your Mega Scizors, and also even, you're not going to use Anchor Shot, never mind, but you could potentially run a Psychic Energy for Tapu Cure, have that available to use. But, I mean, I just went Metal because, hey, straightforward gimmick deck. Anyway, that is the deck, guys. I'm done rambling. Let's go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Rookie Too Easy with a Psychic and Normal deck. So this actually should go relatively well for us because we will have resistance advantage in this matchup. So, yeah, let's see what my opponent is running. Honestly, I'm not going to... Okay, so he's running a Mega Mewtwo deck. We're running a Mega Scizor deck. I mean, inherently, we just have the advantage. Like, straight up, no two ways about it. We've got the advantage on this one. Well, then again, we would have the advantage if I can ever start with the Pokemon. But, I mean, it's not horrible, I guess, as long as I don't mulligan like 30 times. Actually, maybe I can mulligan 46 more times and make my opponent deck out, even though he has the option to not take those mulligan cards. No, not gonna happen. Alright, well, guy can dream. Let's see, we got, my opponent starts with a Mewtwo. I mean, that's to be expected. On the bright side, I mean, I'm gonna be able to get a Metal in the discard pile immediately. I do have to get rid of a Choice Band, which is a little unfortunate, but this is actually kind of beautiful because I'm going to get a Mega Scizor up next turn. I'll be able to Sycamore for a brand new hand, maybe get a couple more Dhelmise in play, do something with that. No, my opponent ends me. I mean, that's fine because it lets me put back a VS Seeker so I don't have to get rid of 2 next turn and I still have those late game. But all I need is an Energy and a Mega Scizor at this point. That works. Well, there's a Crushing Hammer, so I'm honestly not sure what Crushing Hammer is doing in a Mega Mewtwo deck. He hits me for a whopping 10 damage. That is going to be very significant. But otherwise, this is amazing. Because what I can do, play down another Dhelmise, play a Metal Energy onto my active Scizor, then Hoopa for Mega Scizor, and Shaymin probably, just to get some more stuff out. Actually, you know what? No, I already have a Scizor Spirit Link on my other one, so I'm just going to grab 2 Mega Scizor and a Shaymin. I can Shaymin up and then be able to get another Dhelmise out with my Ultra Ball and still Sycamore away my hand. So, I mean, this is... I'm just going to go off this first turn. This is amazing. I'm hitting for at least 140 damage right now. Going to be able to hit for even more while being able to Float Stone up a Dhelmise as well. So let's Ultra Ball, get rid of... Well, alright. My opponent just decided to scoop. I mean, I don't blame him. I had a phenomenal setup, and he had an uphill match to begin with. The fact that I was just getting set up even more was just kind of the nail in the coffin for him. So, yeah, I mean, that was the first match. We had the advantage, but let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against V Koko with a Dragon and Lightning deck. So, not fully sure what my opponent is running, but it looks to be kind of cool. We do win the coin flip, so we are going to be able to go first. Well, go first as soon as we get a basic Pokemon that we can start with. We'll have to mulligan this first turn, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll see what we can get. See if we can get something decent to start off with. Well, I get a couple Dhelmise, but on the bright side, I do get a Float Stone, so I will be able to put one active and then just be able to simply retreat it out afterward into a Scizor. I'll be able to get a Metal in the discard pile, and there's a Gumi. Huh. So unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to get rid of some good stuff immediately. Ah, this is frustrating, because like I want to save my Field Blower and my Choice Band for when I already have a Mega Scizor. So what I'm going to do right here is probably just grab a Hoopa. That way I can grab a couple... Or do I want to grab a Lele to grab an N? See, I wanted to Lele for an N, but at this point, that way I can save the Field Blower and the Choice Band for later. But at this point, it's like, you know what? I need this stuff. I need to just go ahead and get it out, get it going. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll draw into an N off the Shaymin. So let's play the couple Scizor down, go ahead and Shaymin for 4 more cards. Hopefully an N. Fingers crossed for an N. Unfortunately, we do not get it, so this is actually very demoralizing for me. I'm going to have to get rid of all of that really, really nice stuff. And, I mean, hey, I get an energy onto a Scizor, so, I mean, there's that. And it turned into a fire energy again. I don't get it. And what I'm going to do is actually leave the Dhelmise active. That way I can simply just retreat into Scizor and attack with... and hit for more damage, because he actually had to get rid of two max potions. So, I mean, that's pretty nice. I still have no idea what my opponent is running. I am completely clueless. Got a Mega Scizor in the discard pile. That's unfortunate. But if I can get a Sky Field in play, I feel like I could do something. And there's a PCL. So, I mean, again, like, I mean, we see the Goomy, so obviously my opponent is running Goodra. But I really have no idea what my opponent is running right now. Taking their time with their Ultra Ball, though. Maybe looking through their deck, but I mean, like, again, I'm all for looking through your deck in real life, like in an actual game. But when it's on TCGO, I mean, come on now. Like, don't spend that long. And he does just decide to grab a Tapu Koko. Gets rid of the Field Blower, and that was kind of why I was debating not getting, not playing down the, or not, why I was debating switching Dhelmise into Scizor, because unfortunately now it's just kind of, yeah, now it's just kind of active. And what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and retreat, or not retreat, just Olympia into Scizor. I might have been able to draw into something, but at this point it's like, whatever. I'm just going to Gale Force and hit the Tapu Koko for some damage, set it up to be knocked out with a Steel Wing next turn, even with the couple Dhelmise that I have on the bench. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. My opponent is going to be able to... what's he going to do? He's going to be able to Sycamore, and I will be able to knock out this Koko. So, there is that at the very least. Yeah, we see the Goodra get discarded too, so... Ooh, 3 VS Seekers and 2 Max Potion already discarded by my opponent. He does get another Tapu Koko. And see, this is why Tapu Koko is so good. Because you're able to just be like, oh, this one's damaged? Alright, I'll just switch to another one. And switching into Goomy. Okay. Well, what I can do now is what I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and Lysandre up the Tapu Koko on the bench before my opponent gets another Max Potion or a Pokemon Center Lady or something. Knock that thing out with the Steel Wing while I have the chance. Drawing to a couple cards. I was kind of hoping for a Mega Scizor Spirit Link. But this matchup, if my opponent gets going, is actually going to be very, very bad for me. Because Tapu Koko will rely on denying prizes unless you are able to get a... What am I trying to say? Tapu Koko relies on denying prizes if you're not able to get one-hit knockouts. Mega Scizor's entire thing is 2-hit knockouts. So this is going to be a pretty bad matchup for us, and they're going to be able to easily 2-hit KO me with Sky High Claws. Yeah, so I need a Mega Scizor. That N was very, very unkind to me, and my opponent even has another Tapu Koko in his hand for next turn if I damage this one. So this is just a very, very bad matchup for me. And I know, you know what, you guys can go ahead and say, oh, you're just making excuses, your opponent has the better deck. You know what, if you want to say that, go nuts. I'm just trying to be real here. This is a very bad matchup because Mega Scizor does rely on 2-hit KOs, while Tapu Koko gets a lot of 1-hit KOs. Which, and Tapu Koko relies, well, actually not necessarily. Tapu Koko relies on 2-hit KOs, Mega Scizor relies on 2-hit KOs. But what Tapu Koko has that Mega Scizor doesn't is the prize denial. And unfortunately, there are no special energy in this deck for my opponent to be able to... there's no special energy on my opponent's deck for me to be able to discard with Iron Crusher. So, okay, my opponent is going to be able to get another Tapu Koko in and knock out my active Mega Scizor. But what I can do is Lysandre up the other Tapu Koko, knock it out with Steel Wing, and maybe I can do something with that. He is getting an Oranguru powered up in the background, so there's that as well. On the bright side, I do have a Tapu Lele for a Sycamore if I need it. But this matchup, yeah, I mean, just Tapu Koko versus Scizor is very much in favor of Tapu Koko. And I mean, I'm still doing well. I'm in the lead. I mean, I'm about to not be in the lead, and my opponent's about to have a fresh Tapu Koko standing in front of me. But, okay, now we're tied. I'm going to go into my Scizor. What can I do? There is a Choice Band. So you know what? Forget Mega Scizor. I just have to go for this. I have to Lysandre up the other Tapu Koko and then Steel Wing. That end hurt me a lot. I mean, that was a very good end on my opponent's part. Set me way back, set me very behind in terms of keeping Pokemon out, keeping attachments. Because I think if I could stream Mega Scizor, I'd be in a better spot. But as it stands now, I mean, my opponent has a fully powered up Tapu Koko. If it gets damaged at all, he can just go into another Tapu Koko. And I'm not sure what I can do right now. I'm thinking, I mean, if my opponent plays a... Yeah, even if he plays a Shaymin, that doesn't matter. Huh. So let's just go ahead and play the energy onto the Scizor. Lele for a Pokemon Center Lady. Just because maybe... Wait, will that even do it? Because 50... No, it actually won't. Actually, wait. If I get... So I have to Steel Wing this turn. It'll do 70 damage. I can set him up to be knocked out next... Oh, yeah, I can actually set him up to be knocked out next turn with a Gale Thrust. Yeah. So... Oh, wait. Crap, I forgot about the rough... Ah, dang it. Forgot about the rough... I completely forgot about it. Oh, well. And there's the Pokemon Center Lady, so my opponent's going to be able to heal up even more, and I don't see how I can win this at this point. Yeah, I really don't. Like, I mean, he won't be able to knock unless he gets... Oh, my gosh. Of course he got the Fighting Fury Belt, too, because, I mean, if he didn't... Oh, man, that is frustrating. Off of that Instruct, he got the Fighting Fury Belt. I mean, I still think my opponent had it anyway. Like, there wasn't much I could do. But let's just grab a Shaymin, see if, like, maybe I can get something onto Lele. I don't know what I can do at this point. I really don't. And, I get a whole lot of nothing off of that. So let's just Float Stone up the Dhelmise. It's 3 Scizor, 2 Mega Scizor, and then let's just end. Maybe I can get something. Yeah, I mean, it was... I can't win this. I mean, I legitimately can't. There's no way. Man, that Fighting Fury Belt off of the top deck from the Instruct. Ah, because if he didn't get that, he wouldn't have knocked me out. Yeah. Man, that's annoying. And I think I could have had a chance if I was able to Gale Thrust the next turn for 100 damage. But I mean, either way, that was... I mean, you know what? If you guys want to say I'm making excuses and chew me out and all that, go nuts. Be my guest. Or you could look at this as it is. It's a very poor matchup for Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor has to take big Oko, has to take 2-hit KOs, and decks that deny 2-hit KOs like Tapu Koko are a bad matchup. So, unfortunately, we do lose that one. My opponent would have won that anyway. So, let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one, and this one looks to be kind of interesting. Very curious to see what my opponent is running against. Vlad Putin 1914. So, wow, we're up against a very old Russian guy, apparently. And, I mean, if it's a real Vladimir Putin, he would come through and click my moves for me, and I would have no choice but to just sit there and be like, I can't do anything. This man has a grizzly bear. He moved a grizzly bear through the computer screen onto my screen, and I just had to sit there and, yeah. Because, I mean, what are you guys going to do against a grizzly bear? Okay, I'm sorry. Admittedly, I took that joke way too far. It wasn't even that funny to begin with. But it looks like we are up against a TCGO deck. Not sure what he is pairing it with. Could be TCGO Tauros. Could be like TCGO Vileplume. I'm really hoping it's TCGO Vileplume because then I actually have a chance against it. But we will take a card. It's a Mega Scizor. There's a Rowlet. So for the time being, I'm just gonna play this down. That way I can get enough cards off Shaymin to maybe get something going this turn. Maybe a Hex Maniac. Simple as that. And there's a Spirit Link. That's awkward. Probably should have played the Choice Band or the Choice Band onto one of my benched Scizors. And then I am just going to go ahead and end, because I mean my opponent has 6 cards. I don't want to discard a VS Seeker and a Mega Scizor. I want to go ahead and put those guys back in the deck. And, well, I kind of liked my other hand better. On the bright side, I will be able to play a Dhelmise down, play a Scizor Spirit Link onto a Scizor on the bench. And then I'm going to hold off on the Float Stone just in case my opponent decides to Lysandre up Lele or Dhelmise. I mean, 99% of the time they're going to Lysandre up Dhelmise. But, actually, I probably... So I didn't... For whatever reason, it didn't click that Vileplume is almost a guarantee. So, yeah. Kind of should have played the VS Seeker. On the bright side, my opponent... will have to play a supporter. Hopefully they don't get a Vileplume, because otherwise I'll just be like, well, there's that Float Stone that's kind of sitting in my hand that I could have used, but I didn't use it. Oh well. Either way, I mean, it's not the end of the world right now. Yeah, my opponent's going to be able to get a TCGO. That's kind of scary, but otherwise I'm okay, especially with the fact that Scizor is going to be able to freely Iron Crusher or whatever it is, just get rid of all the DCEs that my opponent has. And I'm going to be 2-hit KOing my opponent's Pokemon, so that's something. He is going to start targeting down the Shaymin. And see, that's one of the problems I have with the TCGO. I'm very well, I hate to say this like this, but I'm very wishy-washy about how I like to do this. So what I am going to do right here is just go ahead and Iron Crusher. Thanks to the Dhelmise, I am able to knock out the Rowlet. I didn't want to give my opponent a new hand. And again, I really should have just grabbed the end with the VS Seeker. I'm losing my mind, guys. Straight up, I'm losing it. Luckily, Scizor is able to do some stuff. Wow, I'm an idiot. But what I was saying is my opponent is just targeting down that Shaymin immediately. I get very, very wishy-washy about whether or not... Why didn't my opponent Revitalizer? He just Sycamored away a Revitalizer when he could have gotten back a Rowlet, which I think you definitely should have done. But, oh well, I mean, that's their prerogative. But what I was saying is I get very kind of scatterbrained, wishy-washy about where I want to put my damage from Feather, because I'm like, okay, I'll just start targeting down the Shaymin. Oh wait, I want to start targeting the attacker. Oh no, I want to go do this. And I get very, all of a sudden it's like, well, now all of my opponent's Pokemon are like 50 damage away from being knocked out, and they're about to take their last prize, and had I just attacked one thing, I would have won the game, and it's like, well, probably should have just targeted down one thing. And so it looks like my opponent definitely has that figured out. They're targeting down the Shaymin from the very beginning. And we see the Gloom start to come down. I really should have VS Seekered for that end. Oh man, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. But oh well. My opponent is going to get Lugia up. He is going to be able to hit me for some very solid damage with Arrow Ball. But at this point, I mean, I already have a prize. I will be able to put this Lugia in range of being knocked out by a clean Mega Scizor if I can get that thing going next turn. My Sky Field is up. Never mind. Oh, that's sad. That's sad for me. I liked my Sky Field in play. Fingers crossed my opponent doesn't have a Vileplume, because that would just end up very horribly for me. Especially now because I don't have any draw support, and my opponent Yep, just Feather Arrowing the Shaymin. They clearly have made up their mind. They're like, this Shaymin is going to die, and that's what's going to happen. He will Arrow Ball me for 100 damage. That is fine. Steel Wing won't be able to save me, unfortunately, but what I can start doing is power up my Scizor on the bench. VS Seeker for the N, just to get a fresh hand of 6 cards up. And actually what I think I'm going to do is Olympia into the Shaymin, and then retreat back into Scizor. That way I can hit the Lugia for even more damage with Gale Thrust. I mean, it won't quite be a one-hit knockout, but this way it's... well, this way it's not 90 damage. I'm just a Steel Wing away from being able to knock out the Lugia. And yeah, he will be able to knock me out with Arrow Ball. But at this point, I wanted to, like, maximize the resources that I had in my hand. And with what I had, if I had just end, Olympia would have gone back into the deck. This way, I got more damage off on the Lugia. I mean, if I end into a Mega Scizor, then that was just kind of a waste overall. But, okay, my opponent ends me. So this allows me to get a fresh hand and see what I can get off of that. Okay, I get a Mega Scizor and a Mega Turbo, so please, please no Vileplume. Oh, wait. Oh, that's fine. I have an Ultra Ball. I can grab another Lele to grab a Sycamore or something like that. But if my opponent's able to get a Vileplume up, I won't be able to do much of anything. Vileplume will be able to completely shut me down. And I really will just have to be like, well, Scizor, you tried. Once again, he is starting to... well, he's continuing to target down the Shaymin. And I might be able to luck out because it doesn't look like my opponent has a Vileplume up yet. No, he does not, so he is going to take a prize off of my Scizor. I will have energy in the discard pile that I can Mega Turbo onto my active Scizor. And I'll be able to knock out this Lugia. Guys, I'm very sorry if you can hear me snorting in the background. My sinuses are absolutely killing me right now. But what I can do here is Ultra Ball grab... oh, so there is no other Lele. But what I can do is grab another Mega Scizor. Thank the Lord for that Sycamore top deck. But there we go. Let's go ahead and get 2 Scizors up. Mega Turbo, a single energy onto my active. That way I just, at the very least, I have something going on. And then I can start building up stuff in the background. There's another Dhelmise. That is beautiful. Let's play the energy onto the Scizor. And then just because it looks like my opponent's about to have something going, I'm going to VS Seeker for my own Sycamore. And then let's Iron Crusher, knock out this Lugia. And yeah, we're not in a bad position. I am going to get rid of the Force of Giant Plants because, I mean, the DCE is already about to go away anyway. And my opponent, and I get an N, not my opponent. I get an N off my prizes. My opponent is going to promote the Tauros. And this actually is a pretty decent spot. As long as my opponent doesn't end me, I have the game on board. Because all I have to do is just Lysandre up Shaymin, knock that thing out, and then Lysandre up, like... oh, Lysandre up 2 Shaymin, and I win the game. Item lock or not, I should be able to win the game with what I have on board. My opponent is going to get a second Decidueye up. So this match is actually starting to get kind of close. And with that second Decidueye, my opponent is going to be able to target down my Shaymin that much faster. So it's actually going to be down to 2 prizes to 2 prizes. Oh, okay, he's going to be able to target down the Shaymin a little bit more. Not quite get the knockout, but that Tauros is going to be a big pain. Because that's... if I attack into the Tauros, then my opponent will literally win next turn by Feather Arrowing the Shaymin once, and then Mad Bull GXing for the game. So, definitely a big no-go on my part. Luckily, my opponent hasn't gotten a Vileplume up yet, which is... I mean, that's the reason I was able to stay in the game. If my opponent got a Vileplume up turn 1, then I wouldn't have a Mega Scizor up. I wouldn't have the board setup that I did. And I mean, yeah, we do see it come down now, but I mean, that was only a matter of time. It was a long time coming that my opponent was going to get a Vileplume. And Tauros does Horn Attack my Mega Scizor. That's fine. What I am going to do is power up my second Mega Scizor fully. That way, I mean, if I get Horn Attacked again. And then I'm going to I'm going to actually knock out the Vileplume. Yes, it gives my opponent, it gives my opponent the ability to use items next turn. But what this also does is it activates my VS Seekers so that if my opponent happens to end me, I win the game. What I was thinking this turn, if my opponent doesn't end me, I win regardless because I have another Lysandre in my hand. By taking out the Shaymin, by taking out not the Shaymin, sorry, I was watching what my opponent was about to do. By taking out the Vileplume, what I did was gave myself more outs in the event that my opponent does end me. Because if he ends me, and then I draw into a VS Seeker, if the Vileplume was still out, then that'd be a dead card, and I would lose because, I'd have to attack into the Tauros. Tauros would just be able to Rage and Mad Bull GX me for the victory, all that good stuff. So, by knocking out the Vileplume, if I draw into a VS Seeker, it's like, oh, okay, that's a Lysandre, I'm still able to win. Basically, just gave myself more outs, because what I would have to do was Lysandre for the win anyway. There wasn't a way for me to, to damage anything, especially because my opponent was just putting up the Tauros at this point. Because if my opponent put anything else up, then I could attack for the win. But it's all two prize attackers at this point. My opponent can't try to make me take odd prizes, and I'm not going to be attacking into the Tauros, so I have to have a Lysandre in order to win at this point. Yeah, this comes down to, does my opponent have an N? If my opponent has an N, odds are I'm not going to draw into the cards that I need to win the game. But, at the very least, I gave myself the best opportunity to win, and that's kind of what I'm just going to be banking on at this point. The fact that I gave myself the best opportunity to win, and hopefully that comes through. My opponent is going to start Feather Arrowing the active. I can't blame him. Tauros wouldn't have been doing enough damage anyway. And this way, with the combination of Horn Attack and one Feather Arrow, my opponent wins. And I actually win because my opponent was not able to disrupt my hand. So we are just going to Iron Crusher that Shaymin for the game. Mega Scizor came through, and actually Dhelmise came through, allowing me to knock out the Vileplume for the game. Which, that was absolutely gigantic. It allowed me to take a one-hit knockout on that Vileplume, which otherwise would have been a two-hit knockout. I would have needed another Lysandre, and just basically the cards would not have been conducive to allow me to win that game at that point. So Dhelmise actually came through clutch. Mega Scizor, of course, did, and this is a very cool variation on an old deck. Is it particularly good in this standard? No. Plain and simple, it's not very good in this standard format. But it's still a very fun deck that can get you some cool wins on the ladder, so I encourage you guys to try it out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.